In this video, I'm going to give my main reason why I will not buy the new flagship phone from Samsung, the Samsung S20, despite all the amazing upgrades. I will also explain why the Samsung S9 is the last flagship model of Samsung phones that I believe today is still underrated given the price point. Now, I want to be clear, I am not an Apple fanboy. I'm a big fan of Samsung. In fact, I've had all their earlier phones, such as the Galaxy Nexus, the Note 2, the S5, the S7, the S9, the Note 10 Plus. As you can tell, I'm a really big Samsung fan and I love their phones. Every time I switch to Huawei or LG, I get really disappointed and I end up always coming back to Samsung. However, as of the latest series, such as the S10 and S20 series, I become really disappointed with one major thing, which I'll get to in a second. Currently, I'm using the S9 as my main phone and I really like the form factor and I like everything about it. However, it's becoming a little dated in regards to the cameras, specifically not having the triple lens camera setup. Now, a few months ago, to combat that, I actually went out and bought the Note 10 Plus and I made a video review about this and I got a lot of negative responses based on my opinion of the Note 10 Plus. Some of the comments were really hateful and a lot of people got really upset with what I was saying. Some people were calling me an idiot, that I don't know how to use a phone. And yeah, so the comments were very negative in general. One thing fortunate that came out of the video was that I was able to test and thoroughly review the Note 10 Plus, and I come to learn something about myself. I've learned that I really do dislike phablets or larger phones. I find it very cumbersome, and I find that the pros of a larger screen do not outweigh the cons of a larger, more cumbersome, and a much more heavier phone that I use day to day. Now, I want to be absolutely clear. I think that having a larger phone such as a phablet is not inherently bad, and if you prefer that and you can deal with the larger size but enjoy the benefits of a huge screen, then I say all the power to you. I think that's really good. But for me personally, I find that something that I wear every day in my pocket needs to be light, easy to hold with one hand, and it's not cumbersome to use, such as pulling down the notification panel from within an app, for example. So by being able to test the Note 10 Plus, I've come to realize that I can't handle large phones such as the S20 Plus or the S20 Ultra. And it's really upsetting because I really would like to have the time of flight sensor and the much more improved larger sensors on the S20 Ultra. However, I cannot deal with the large size of such phone. So when the official specs of the S20 were released, I was extremely happy. First, we're going to get a much larger screen than the S9 and have basically the same form factor, which is amazing. So you're fitting more screen in a very similar form factor of the S9. In fact, the S20 base model has a 6.2 inch screen, which is what the S9 Plus has. Obviously, the S9 Plus will be slightly larger on the width in terms of the screen size and the area of the screen size. However, fitting a 6.2 inch screen into the same form factor as an S9 is amazing. Another amazing upgrade with the S20, not just in terms of the sheer size of the screen for the base model of the S20, is the refresh rate. At 120 Hz, when I went to the Samsung store and I played with the phone, I was absolutely amazed at how smooth the experience is by using a 120 Hz display. One thing that I'm really worried about the 120 Hz display, and this is not, I'm not talking about the fact that we have to put it at 1080p resolution, which means that you cannot run the display at full resolution and have 120 Hz refresh rate, which apparently they're going to improve in the software update. My main concern using a 120 Hz refresh rate is that it will drain the battery severely. And given that this is a larger screen and that the refresh rate is higher, I know that they increased the milliamp of the battery to 5,000 versus the 3,000 on the S9. I don't know if this increase in battery was going to be negated by the bigger screen and obviously the higher refresh rate. Of course, they upgraded the CPU, the RAM, the storage. Everything has been upgraded, and most importantly, the cameras have been upgraded with a much larger sensor. So why is the new sensor such a big deal? Well, if you know anything about photography, having a larger sensor will allow the camera to capture more light. This is a major contributor to improving the low light capability of the cameras on the S20. In fact, I believe that the S10 series was still using the cameras from the older generations, such as the S9 and S8. So finally, they've upgraded the cameras, and this has given me a big reason to upgrade. So I made a summary of all the sensors available in common cameras, such as the GoPro, the S9, the S10, and S20 series. And as you can tell, there has been a substantial jump in sensor size or pixel size when you go from the S9 to the S20, and especially the S20 Ultra. There's obviously a caveat: when you have a larger sensor, you need to have a bigger camera, or a bigger phone in this case. If you look at the RX0 and the Micro Four Thirds, they're approaching 1 inch to 1.3 inches. And as you get bigger, you definitely need physical space to handle this larger sensor.
So I don't blame the S20, the non-ultra version, to have a smaller sensor, but I'm very glad it's been upgraded. If you look at the previous series of the S10, the S9, the S8, and the S7, they've all been using similar hardware, and it's terribly sad that they haven't been upgraded in terms of their hardware. If you look at the GoPro 7 and 8, they're actually using a slightly larger sensor than the previous generation models, and now this S20 is actually using a larger sensor than the GoPro. I personally believe that the GoPro 7 and 8 have pretty good color science, and the picture quality is not bad for the sensor size, so I'm really excited to see what the S20 can bring, especially the S20 Ultra, even though the Ultra is way too big and prohibitive for me. Let me put a disclaimer, I know that sensor size is not the only thing that contributes to a good quality picture. If you compare it to a Micro Four Thirds dedicated camera or a full frame camera, you can tell by simply looking at the lenses they're using how big the glass is. Obviously the physics, the way it captures light is going to produce a much better picture than what a small little tiny lens on a camera phone would look like.
One thing I really miss in my S9 setup is not having a triple camera lens. One being ultra wide for like kind of GoPro stabilized video, the regular wide angle lens, which is used for just normal portrait taking, and then you have the telephoto, which is very useful if you're on vacation and you want to take pictures of like an animal that's really far away. All these types of practical uses for the triple camera lens setup is something that I really want in my S9, and I was hoping that the S20 would bring me that, plus a really good reliable fingerprint sensor. 3, 2, 1, go! Okay,
Oh, wow.
I messed up there. 2, 1, go! Okay, let's try that again. I got it right over it, okay? 3, 2, 1, go! Okay.
Yours is definitely slower.
One thing that really disappointed me, and this is the main reason why I'm really upset with the S20, apparently Samsung did an announcement with Qualcomm that they improved the area in which the fingerprint sensor lies on the screen. So with the improved performance, the better cameras, the larger screen, the 120Hz screen, I immediately went out and pre-ordered this device, hoping to really enjoy my new phone. But then I learned the announcement that they are not using the new fingerprint scanner. And the new fingerprint scanner is supposed to be quicker and have a larger surface area in which it will read your fingerprint. It's still using the old one from the S10 series, and for that I am really disappointed with this. This has become a deal breaker for me. Not having a reliable fingerprint scanner is actually going to completely ruin my experience using the S20. Based on my experience of using the Note 10 Plus, I had a really poor time using the fingerprint scanner. I would always miss it. And sure, you can turn on the always on display so that you can locate the fingerprint sensor, but I find that not having a physical groove such as that on the S9 kind of annoying because it's really hard to perfectly match the alignment of your fingerprint onto the fingerprint scanner. So I'm really disappointed that they didn't put the larger fingerprint scanner inside. Now, there have been some videos circulating that the S20 is significantly faster than the S10, and it's posted on Reddit. You can check it out in the link below. I am not sure if this is actually good because they actually turn on the screen and then apply the fingerprint. So I'm not sure if it's going to be fast if you have the screen off and you try to wake up the device using your fingerprint on the display. So not only is the new fingerprint scanner less reliable, harder to use, and slower than the S9 fingerprint scanner, I'm also going to be missing the swipe down gesture. And given that these phones have become so vertically tall and large, it's really cumbersome to move my hand and pull down the notification. Receiving notifications and responding to them and interacting with notifications is something that we do a lot every day. And having to, move your hand all the way to the top and pull it down is very annoying. Now, here's where I got a lot of flack from the previous video. A lot of people are saying, you don't know how to use the Note 10 Plus. And people are telling me that you can, from the home screen, and only from the home screen, can you swipe down. You can use a swipe down gesture to pull the notification panel. And I think that's great, and that definitely helps with this annoyance of having to pull down the notification panel from the top, where you can simply just do it from the middle of the screen by using the swipe down gesture. However, you cannot do that within an app. The difference with the S9 is that you can actually use the fingerprint gesture within any app. So you basically have more functionality. So let's say you're in Facebook or you're in Messenger and you get a notification, you want to pull down the notification panel, you can do it within the app and then just use that pull down feature on the S9's fingerprint scanner or the S8 or the S10e, and thereby giving you the access to your notification panel really easily. This is something that is not feasible with the S10 and the S20 series. So yes, you can go to the home screen and swipe down, but I like to reserve that gesture for opening a very often used app. So I swipe down, and I get into the app. I really like the Bixby button, and it's really surprising to say that. However, I don't use it for Bixby. I use it for a shortcut. I use it to open another frequently used app. So I press that, and it opens this app. When I take this phone out of my pocket, and let's say I'm just walking down the street and I have it in my pocket, I can easily know where the groove is, and I can have the phone ready opened as soon as I get in. So I really prefer having the groove there, especially with the case. It's very easy to access the fingerprint scanner from within your pocket, and by the time you remove the phone from your pocket, you've already opened the phone. One thing that really annoys me about some of the bigger YouTubers that have access to these devices is that they're not showing the performance of the fingerprint scanner. And I don't know why they're skipping this really important segment of the phone. This is such an important feature that we use every day, and I really wish that they would cover more details of this before making that large purchase. I don't want to go out and buy this really expensive device and then find out that the fingerprint sensor is not up to my performance needs. Now, there are some mixed reviews. Some people are saying that it's really fast and it's improved with the software update, but I do think based on physics and the hardware of the actual fingerprint sensor, given that it's so small, I think it's going to be really unreliable. And I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope that someone in the comment comes out and you get their S20 and that they can prove with empirical evidence that this fingerprint sensor is actually much improved than the previous models like the S10. Even if the fingerprint sensor is absolutely improved and they somehow increase the accuracy and reliability of the fingerprint sensor, given that it's still small, I still miss that gesture of swiping down. And I don't think that the home only swipe down gesture is sufficient to replace that. Now, I will admit that having the fingerprint scanner on the front of the device is a lot more convenient if you frequently unlock the phone from your table. So let's say the phone is on the table, it's really annoying to go on the back of the phone, like on the S9, and use your fingerprint to open it. That's one benefit. Another benefit is that you reduce accidental smudges on your camera. So sometimes you want to reach to the back of the S9's fingerprint sensor, you might hit the camera lens, and that might cause it to be smudged and therefore make your pictures less sharp. So that is another benefit to having the fingerprint sensor on the screen. I do like the technology and I like where it's going. It's just hard for me to lose that functionality of the gesture. Accessing my notifications is something that I do all the time. It's very difficult for me to move away from this, but I know I have to move forward, and eventually in-display fingerprint sensors are going to become the norm. There's also a couple other little nitpicks for the S20. One thing is that it doesn't have a headphone jack, which I know we're all pretty much going to get rid of the headphone jack eventually. I cannot afford to replace my Bose noise canceling headphones that are wired, unfortunately. So that's kind of annoying that I have to carry a dongle everywhere I go, especially on airplanes. Another thing is that I'm really going to miss the LED notification indicator on the actual device. So when you get a notification, you'll get a multicolor LED light. Say, for example, Messenger, you have a blue light. And then if you have a text message, it's going to be a green light. I'm going to be missing that. And in place of that is going to be the always on display, which I don't think is very good for your display because it might cause burn-in. And obviously it decreases your battery. So what do you guys think of this? Do you agree with me? Are you not going to buy the S20 because of the fingerprint scanner, despite all the amazing upgrades? Do me a favor, give me a like if you agree with me and you're not going to buy the S20. But give a dislike if you disagree with me and will be buying the S20. I'm very curious to know why you dislike this video or why you don't agree with me. So leave a comment down below. I'd love to open a conversation about this topic. Thanks for watching and see you guys in the next video.